When you think about Ding Dong Ditching, you probably remember the thrill of running up to a door and pressing the bell. Your friends whispering in the background. The rush of sneakers hitting the pavement as you sprint away. It feels harmless, a prank that leaves you laughing in the dark. But one night changed the way I thought about it forever. A house we thought was perfect for a laugh turned into something else. Something that still makes me feel watched when I pass quiet porches at night. I am going to tell you how one round of Ding Dong Ditching became the scariest night of my life. It started with the usual plan. A group of us had gathered with nothing better to do. No money to spend. No parents around to tell us where we could or could not go. The game picked itself. Run through the neighborhood. Pick a house. Press the bell. Disappear before anyone has a chance to see your face. Simple, fun, safe. Or at least it felt that way at first. We started with the easy houses. The ones with glowing porch lights and freshly cut lawns. Those doors always got a reaction. A light flicked on, a shadow moved. Sometimes even a shout chasing after us as we vanished into the night. We laughed so hard our stomachs ached. For a while it felt like just another night of being young and reckless. But then someone pointed out the old house at the edge of the block. The one that never seemed to have anyone coming or going. No porch light, no cars, no laughter spilling out from behind the curtains. Just darkness, heavy, silent. Waiting dared me to go. It was always like that. I was the youngest, eager to prove myself. Eager not to look scared when the older kids stared me down. So I agreed. Walking up the driveway was like stepping into a different world. The air felt colder. The ground cracked under my shoes like the house wanted to announce every step. The porch boards groaned when I placed my weight on them. I reached for the doorbell. The button was stiff and cold, as if it had not been pressed in years. I pressed it anyway. The chime inside was not like the ones at the other houses. It did not sound cheerful or quick. It echoed deep and hollow, as though it came from the walls themselves. The sound dragged longer than it should have. It made my chest feel heavy. I turned to run, but something moved inside. Behind the curtain of the front window, a shadow shifted. Not a quick flicker. Not the simple movement of someone passing by. It stood there, steady, watching. I sprinted back to my friends. We crouched behind bushes across the street, our eyes locked on the window. We whispered and shoved each other nervously. Someone laughed to break the tension, but I could not laugh. The curtain twitched again. No light came on. No door opened. Just the curtain. Moving. Time dragged. 5 minutes, maybe more. The house never changed. But the sense that someone was looking out at us grew heavier. Finally, one of my friends dared me to go back. I should have said no, but pride kept my legs moving. I walked back up the driveway, every step louder than the last. The boards complained under my shoes. I pressed the bell again. This time I heard more than the chime. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, each one heavy against the floor inside. They moved closer, closer, then stopped right at the door. The knob rattled once, like a hand testing it, but it never turned. I ran so fast I barely remember touching the ground. We were pale now, laughter gone, arguing in whispers about what we had heard. Then the door opened. It did not open wide. It did not slam against the wall. It creaked, slowly, letting darkness spill out into the night. No porch light, no voice, just the sound of the door opening inch by inch. We bolted, our feet pounded against the pavement, but the sound followed. Not quick footsteps, not shouts. Something heavier, dragging, uneven. I looked back once. The door was open wider now, and in the frame stood a figure, tall, still, unmoving, just watching. We did not stop running until we reached the next block, breathless, bent over, trying to convince ourselves it had been nothing, but none of us dared go back. The next morning the sun made everything seem normal again. We dared each other to walk back. The house looked the same. Door shut, curtains drawn. No sound, no movement. But on the porch, right under the bell, was a single muddy HAND-PRINT. To this day, I do not know who was inside that house. I do not know if they were waiting for us, or if we had stumbled into something we should never have. Disturbed. All I know is that ding-dong ditching has never felt like a harmless game again, because sometimes the houses you think are empty are not empty at all, and sometimes the people inside are not angry. They are patient, waiting for kids, dumb enough to knock twice. After that first night at the house on Elm Street, I thought the story was over. I thought the fear would fade with time. A prank gone too far. A door opening in the dark. A figure we could not explain. But fear does not just vanish. It lingers. It waits. And sometimes it calls you back. A week later, the same friends wanted to play again. They laughed about how we had spooked ourselves. Said we let our imagination turn shadows into monsters. I wanted to believe them, but part of me knew better. Still, I followed. The night was colder, the neighborhood quieter. Our sneakers echoed too loudly on the pavement. We avoided Elm Street at first, choosing safer houses, but the game felt empty. None of the doors gave us the same rush. It was like every house was just a shadow of the one we had left behind. Soon, someone said it. Let's go back. The air grew heavier as we turned the corner. The house stood the same as before. Dark, curtains drawn, no light, but something felt different, as if it had been waiting for us. We argued, dared, shoved each other. Finally, one of us gave in. Not me this time. My friend Tyler walked up the porch. I watched his shoulders tense as he pressed. The bell dot. The sound rang out again. Long, hollow. Dragging through the night. Silence followed. No footsteps. No curtain twitch. Just silence. We almost laughed. Almost believed nothing would happen. Then, the door opened on its own. Not with footsteps. Not with a hand. It just creaked wider and wider until it stood open. The darkness inside felt heavy, like it was spilling across the porch. Tyler froze. We shouted for him to run, but he stood there, staring. I swear I saw something behind him. A shadow stretching out of the doorway, reaching toward his feet. He broke free at the last second and ran back to us. But he did not laugh. None of us. Did we sprinted away again. But this time the sound followed faster. Not dragging. Not slow. Sharper, like claws scratching against wood. We did not stop until we reached the far end of the street, but even then I swore I heard it. Faint. Following the next morning I told myself it had to be imagination, but Tyler would not talk about it. He skipped school for days. When he came back, he looked pale, quiet, like the shadow had followed him home. A week later, he moved away. His family left without warning. No goodbye, just gone. And that house still sits on Elm Street, curtains drawn, porch empty, door closed, waiting. Sometimes I wonder if it waits for kids like us. Kids who think it is funny to press a bell and run, because maybe it is not just a house. Maybe it is something else. Something that wants to be woken up. Something that does not forget. Asterisk. After Tyler moved away, I thought things would calm down. Our group shrank. Nobody wanted to admit it, but the game was over. We stayed inside on weekends, played video games, tried to act normal, but no matter. What? That house on Elm Street sat heavy in the back of my mind. Weeks passed, then months. Halloween came and went. Most kids filled the streets with candy bags and laughter. I stayed home. I told myself I was too old for trick-or-treating, but the truth was different. I could not face porches, not after what I had seen. Still, the house never let me go. It started with small things. Footsteps outside my own window at night, too slow to be neighbors, too heavy to be branches in the wind. Shadows stretched across my curtains, even when no one was there. Once I swore I heard the same hollow chime, faint, echoing through the dark. But there was no bell at my house. I stopped sleeping well. Dreams pulled me back to Elm Street again and again. The door opening on its own, the shadow stretching across the porch, Tyler's pale face when he came back to school, and always, at the end, the sound, claws against wood. Then one night, I woke to something worse. A knock, not on my front door, on my window. 3 taps, slow, steady. I froze, held my breath. The sound came again, not from inside, not from the street, from the glass, just inches from my bed. I pulled the covers over my head and waited. The taps stopped, but the silence after was worse, heavy, like something was still there, watching the next day. I told myself it had to be a dream. I wanted to believe that, but when I looked at the glass, I saw it, faint, smeared, a handprint, muddy, too high to belong to me. I started avoiding Elm Street altogether. Even walking home, I added extra blocks just to steer clear. But one night my friends pulled me back. We were restless again, bored. Someone joked about how long it had been, about how the house could not still scare us. The laughter felt fake, but it was enough to pull us along. We reached Elm Street just as the sun slipped down. The house stood the same, dark, silent, waiting. Nobody wanted to go first. We argued in whispers, shoved each other. Finally, I gave in. The porch felt colder. Then I remembered. Each step made the boards groan. I raised my hand, touched the bell, but I did not press it, because before I could, the chime rang on its own, long, hollow, dragging through the night. We ran before the door even moved, but as we sprinted down the street, I looked back. The door was open again, wider than before, and this time, something stood outside of it, a figure, tall, stretched, leaning toward us, not chasing, not running, just watching. We did not stop running until the lights of the next block blinded us. Nobody spoke, nobody laughed, but I knew the truth then. The house was not waiting for us to ring the bell anymore. It had already chosen us. After Tyler moved away, I thought things would calm down. Our group shrank. Nobody wanted to admit it, but the game was over. We stayed inside on weekends, played video games, tried to act normal. But no matter what, that house on Elm Street sat heavy in the back of my mind. Weeks passed, then months. Halloween came and went. Most kids filled the streets with candy bags and laughter. I stayed home. I told myself I was too old for trick-or-treating, but the truth was different. I could not face porches, not after what I had seen. Still, the house never let me go. It started with small things. Footsteps outside my own window at night, too slow to be neighbors, too heavy to be branches in the wind. Shadows stretched across my curtains even when no one was there. Once I swore I heard the same hollow chime, faint, echoing through the dark. But there was no bell at my house. I stopped sleeping well. Dreams pulled me back to Elm Street again and again. The door opening on its own, the shadows stretching across the porch, Tyler's pale face when he came back to school, and always, at the end, the sound, claws against wood. Then one night, I woke to something worse, a knock, not on my front door, on my window. 3 taps, slow, steady. I froze, held my breath. The sound came again, not from inside, not from the street, from the glass just inches from my bed. I pulled the covers over my head and waited. The taps stopped, but the silence after was worse, heavy, like something was still there. Watching the next day, I told myself it had to be a dream. I wanted to believe that. But when I looked at the glass, I saw it, faint, smeared, a handprint, muddy, too high to belong to me. I started avoiding Elm Street altogether, even walking home. I added extra blocks just to steer clear. But one night my friends pulled me back. We were restless again, bored. Someone joked about how long it had been, about how the house could not still scare us. The laughter felt fake, but it was enough to pull us along. We reached Elm Street just as the sun slipped down. The house stood the same, dark, silent, waiting. Nobody wanted to go first. We argued in whispers, shoved each other. Finally, I gave in. The porch felt colder. Then I remembered. Each step made the boards groan. I raised my hand, touched the bell, but I did not press it, because before I could, the chime rang on its own, long, hollow, dragging through the night. We ran before the door even moved. But as we sprinted down the street, I looked back. The door was open again, wider than before, and this time, something stood outside of it. A figure, tall, stretched, leaning toward us, not chasing, not running, just watching. We did not stop running until the lights of the next block blinded us. Nobody spoke, nobody laughed, but I knew the truth then. The house was not waiting for us to ring the bell anymore. It had already chosen us. After that night, we could not pretend anymore. The figure had stepped outside, not hiding behind curtains, not waiting on the porch. It was out in the open now, and it was watching us. We stopped going out at night. The laughter that once pushed us into stupid dares was gone. Even walking home after school felt different. Every streetlight flicker, every shadow behind a tree. It all reminded me of Elm Street. But staying away did not help. It started when John claimed he saw it across from his house. He was brushing his teeth one night when he looked out the bathroom window. At first he thought it was just a man standing by the curb. But then he realized it was too tall, too still, the same stretched shadow we had seen on the porch. He blinked, and it was gone. A few days later, I felt it too. Walking home alone. The street was empty, except for the sound of my sneakers against the pavement. Then I heard another set of steps, slow, matching mine. I turned around. No one was there, but the echo kept following until I reached my driveway. We tried not to talk about it, like saying the words would make it real, but the silence between us said enough. Each of us knew we were being followed. The next weekend, my friend Mason swore he saw it closer. He had been in his backyard letting his dog out. The animal froze, growled at the fence. Mason looked up and saw a figure standing just beyond the chain links, not moving, just leaning forward, watching. That was the night. The dog disappeared. After that, we knew the figure was not bound to Elm Street anymore. Whatever lived in that house had stepped out, and now it was roaming. We decided to face it. Stupid, reckless. But fear had built so high it twisted into desperation. We thought maybe if we went back, if we rang the bell one last time, it would end, so we met at the corner. Flashlights in our hands, hearts pounding. The house looked even worse than before. Shutters hanging loose, paint peeling, the porch sagging deeper into the ground. The air around it felt colder, like it carried its own season. We stood there, arguing, daring each other. But none of us wanted to touch the porch. The boards seemed to breathe. Each groan of the wood sounded like a warning. Then the door opened, not with the bell, not with us touching it. It opened wide this time, swinging all the way until it slammed against the wall. The darkness inside felt alive, thick, reaching, and then it stepped out. The figure filled the doorway, taller than the frame itself. Its head tilted low, like it had to bend to fit beneath. The roof, it had no face, just the blur of features that shifted when you tried to focus. We froze, rooted to the sidewalk. Then it moved. Not fast, not slow, steady, each step heavy against the porch. The boards groaned as if they were breaking under its weight. We ran, but no matter how fast we moved, the sound followed. When I finally reached the next block, I risked a glance back. The figure was gone, but the door of the house was still wide. Open. And I swear, I saw shadows spilling out across the street, stretching, reaching, like the house itself was leaking into the neighborhood. After the night the door swung wide and the shadows spilled across the street, nothing felt safe anymore. It was not just the house. It was not just Elm Street. It followed us. The first sign came at night. I woke to the sound of footsteps in my hallway. Slow, dragging. I thought it was my mom, but the steps did not stop at her bedroom. They stopped right outside my door. I held my breath, waited for the handle to turn. It never did. But when I looked in the morning, the carpet showed marks, long dark smears, as if something heavy had stood there all night. John had worse. He told us he woke up and saw it standing at the end of his bed, not moving, not speaking, just standing. He pulled the blanket over his head. When he looked again, it was gone, but the blanket smelled like damp wood, the same smell from the Elm Street porch. Mason said it had started calling his name, faint, whispering through the vents in his house. Always after midnight, always when he was alone. We stopped sleeping. We stopped laughing. Every night was a countdown to when it would appear again. One evening, we met to talk about what to do. Hiding was not working. Ignoring was not working. Mason said we needed to go back and end it. Destroy the bell. Smash the door. Do something to close it. So we planned to return together. But before we could, it came to me again. This time inside my room, I woke to the hollow chime, not from the doorbell, from inside my head. The sound stretched long and heavy, filling the walls. I opened my eyes. It was standing in the corner, tall, bent, its head nearly touching the ceiling. The shadows around it pulsed, as if they breathed. I could not move, my body locked, my chest tight. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The figure tilted its head, the blur of its face shifting like smoke. And then it took a step closer. The floor groaned under its weight. The smell of damp wood filled my room. I shut my eyes, prayed it would leave. When I opened them, it was gone, but the carpet was soaked. Damp footprints trailed from the corner to the side of my bed. The next day, I found out John did not come to school. Mason either. Calls went unanswered. Texts left on red. I walked home alone, each step heavier than the last. When I reached my house, I saw something on the porch, a muddy handprint, pressed right beside my doorbell. Asterisk. After I saw the handprint on my own porch, I knew the game was over. It had followed me home. The bell outside my door was no longer harmless. It was a signal, a reminder that the thing from Elm Street had chosen me next. I tried calling John again. No answer. I biked past his house that night. His window was open, the curtain blowing slightly. But when I stopped to look closer, I saw something inside. A shadow stretched across the room. Too tall to be John, too still. I backed away before it turned toward me. The next morning his house was empty, his parents gone, the driveway bare. No goodbye, no sign of moving trucks. Just silence. Mason disappeared the same week. One day he was in class, pale and restless. The next he was gone. Teachers said his family left town, but I did not believe it. I remembered his last words to me. He said he could hear the bell ringing every night, louder, closer. Now, I was the only one left. At night, the sound grew unbearable. The hollow chime echoed through my house, even though no one touched the bell. Shadows stretched across my walls, moving on their own. Every time I blinked, I thought I saw it, leaning in the corner, crouching by the window, waiting at the foot of my bed. I stopped sleeping. My eyes burned from staying awake. Every creak of the floor made me freeze. Every groan of the walls sounded like footsteps. Then one night it finally came. I woke to silence, too perfect. Not a car outside, not a clock ticking, just silence. Then the sound started. 3 knocks, slow, steady, not on the door, on the wall of my room. I held my breath. The knocks came again. this time from the ceiling. I looked up and saw the outline of hands pressing through the plaster, long fingers dragging slowly across the surface. The hollow chime rang again, louder, inside my head. I squeezed my eyes shut. When I opened them, it was there standing over me. Its head bent low, the blur of its face shifting like smoke. Its arms stretched longer than they should, fingers almost brushing my chest. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My body locked in place. It leaned closer, and for the first time it spoke, not in words, not in a voice, but in the sound of the bell, ringing through my skull, shaking my bones. I blacked out. When I woke the next morning, my room looked the same, except for one thing. The door to my closet was wide open, and inside, pressed against the wood, was a muddy handprint. Asterisk, asterisk. After the handprint appeared inside my closet, I knew I could not hide anymore. Running had not saved John. It had not saved Mason. The figure was not just following us, it was taking us. One by one, the nights bled together. The sound of the bell grew louder. Sometimes it rang outside, sometimes inside. Sometimes it rang without sound, only pressure in my skull, like my head was the chime itself. I stopped pretending to live normal. I barely spoke to my parents. I barely left my room. I waited, because waiting was all there was. But then I realized something. The bell had started here, on Elm Street. It was not following us because we ran. It was following us because we never finished the game. We woke it. We ran, and now it wanted to finish what it started, so I decided to go back. I walked alone. No flashlight, no friends, just me, and the cold night pressing in on every side. The streets felt emptier than ever. Every house I passed seemed abandoned, even the ones with lights on. By the time I reached Elm Street, it felt like I had left the rest of the world behind. The house waited, tall, sagging, its windows covered. The door shut tight, but the bell glowed faintly in the dark. I stepped onto the porch. The boards groaned like they remembered me. I raised my hand, touched the bell before I pressed it. The door opened on its own, wide. The air that spilled out was damp, heavy, carrying the smell of rotting wood and something older. Inside was darkness. Not empty darkness, thick darkness. Like it had weight. I stepped in. The floor creaked under me. The door slammed shut behind me. The sound of the bell rang out again, not from outside, from inside the walls. The whole house seemed to breathe with it. I called out. Maybe to John, maybe to Mason, maybe to whatever waited. No answer, only footsteps, slow, circling me from every side. The curtains twitched, though the windows were closed. The air pressed down until I could barely breathe. Then I saw them, shadows on the walls. 3 shapes, one the size of John, one the size of Mason, one smaller, Tyler. They did not move like people. They twitched, bent, leaned too far. The bell rang again, and their heads snapped toward me behind them. In the doorway at the end of the hall, the figure waited, taller than the ceiling, its head bent low, its arms stretching wider than the hallway itself. It leaned forward. The walls groaned, and then it whispered, not words, not language, just the sound of the bell, deep, dragging, endless. The bell kept ringing in my head, deep, heavy, every tone dragged through my bones. The shadows of John Mason and Tyler twitched against the walls like puppets, their movements sharp and broken, their faces blurred into the dark dot. I tried to back up, but the house shifted around me. The floor stretched like it was pulling me deeper. Every step forward covered twice the distance of a step back. The figure at the end of the hall leaned lower, its head scraping the ceiling. I shouted their names. John, Mason, Tyler. None of them answered. Their mouths opened, but no sound came out. Just more of the bell. The hallway bent. Doors appeared where I knew no doors had been before. One to the left, one to the right, one behind me, all of them slightly open, each one leaking the smell of damp wood and something sour. The shadows of my friends jerked forward, like they were being pulled into those doors. Tyler first, his body folded in half, his shadow bent and slid under the crack. Mason followed, then John. The walls swallowed them whole. I was alone again. The figure moved. One step, the floor shook. Another step, the hallway stretched longer. I knew if I stayed, it would reach me, so I turned to the nearest door and pushed it open. Inside was not a room. It was another hallway, longer, darker, lined with doors on both sides. Each door had a bell fixed above it. Some were cracked, some were broken. Some still glowed faintly. The air grew colder. The sound of the bells layered together. Hundreds of them. Some faint, some sharp. All dragging like the one I knew. I walked forward. Each step echoed too loud. The hallway seemed endless. Doors rattled as I passed. Shadows moved under the cracks. Whispers brushed against my ears. At the end of the hall, one door stood wider than the rest. Its bell glowed brighter. The wood around it sagged like it had been opened too many times. I reached for the knob. My hand shook. The bell above it rang once on its own. The loudest yet. The door creaked open. Inside was darkness, thicker than before, and a voice. Not the bell this time, not shadows. A voice that whispered one word. Come, asterisk, asterisk. The voice pulled me forward. One word, soft but heavy. Come. I wanted to turn back. I wanted to run, but the hallway behind me had already stretched into black. Every door shut, every bell silent. The only way left was forward. I stepped through the door. The floor changed beneath me. No longer wood, stone, damp, and uneven. The air was colder, here, thick with the smell of earth and rot. My footsteps echoed like I had entered something vast. The door slammed behind me. The sound rolled through the space like thunder. Shadows rippled along the walls. Not flat shadows, moving shapes. They twitched and bent, some tall, some small, some crawling on all fours. I tried not to look too closely, but every time I blinked, they shifted closer. Then I saw them bells, hundreds of them, hanging from the ceiling, nailed into the walls, resting on the floor. Big ones, small ones, cracked ones, all swaying though no wind touched them. Their chimes layered together into a sound so deep it shook my chest. In the middle of the room stood the figure, taller than before, its head bent low, its arms stretching wide. But now I saw more. The bells were connected to it. Ropes and chains, tied into its skin. Every time it moved, a bell rang. I wanted to scream, but the air pressed down on me until no sound came out. The figure lifted one arm. The bells across the room answered. The walls groaned, and then I saw faces. Inside the bells, pressed against the glass. John, Mason, Tyler. Their eyes wide, their mouths moving. But no words escaped. Only the sound of the bell. I stumbled back. My heel hit another bell on the floor. It rang sharp, piercing. The figure turned toward me. Its faceless blur shifted into something closer, something that looked like me. The voice came again, not soft. This time, louder, deeper. Ring. The bells shook harder. Dust fell from the ceiling. Shadows crawled closer. I realized the truth then. The house was not just a house. It was a collection. Every kid who had ever played the game, every knock, every bell pressed. It had taken them all, kept them inside, and now it wanted me too. The figure leaned closer, the blur of my own face staring back at me. Its hand stretched out. Behind me, the door had vanished, and the only sound left was the endless toll of the bells. Asterisk, asterisk. The sound of the bells shook the room. Every chime hit harder, pounding through my chest until my heart felt out of rhythm. The figure leaned closer. Its blur of a face stretched into mine, like it was pulling me out of myself. The shadows pressed tighter, crawling along the floor, sliding up the walls. Some of them had hands, some of them had claws, all of them reaching for me. I stumbled back, but there was nowhere to go. Every step I took, the floor curved with me, bending back toward the figure. I tried to scream John's name, Mason's, Tyler's, but the sound came out broken, half swallowed by the ringing. The bells hanging from the ceiling swayed harder. I saw their faces again, clearer now. Their eyes were wide with panic, their mouths moving in unison. 3 words over and over: "Do not ring." But the figure raised its arm, and the bell above me glowed. The floor cracked open, stone crumbling into a pit of darkness. Chains dropped from the ceiling, some landing inches from my arms. Hooks scraped the ground, each one tied to a bell that shook with fury. The figure whispered again, not in the voice of the bell this time, not even in mine. It was my mother's voice, calling my name, telling me to open the door. For a second I wanted to believe it, to step forward and let it take me. But then the faces inside the bells screamed, louder, not with sound, with silence, their mouths wide, their eyes pleading. I grabbed the nearest chain and pulled. The bell attached to it shattered. Glass and metal burst across the floor. The sound was sharp, splitting the ringing for the first time. The figure staggered. The shadows hissed. The ringing stuttered like static. I pulled again. Another bell cracked. Another face flickered and was gone. The figure let out a sound that shook the entire space, deeper than thunder, darker than anything human. Its body stretched wider, arms scraping the walls. The bells began to swing wildly. One by one, they started to fall. Some shattered, some burst into ash dot, and in the middle of the chaos, I realized something. Every bell I broke gave me a chance, but each one also pulled the figure closer. Its blur of a face was no longer mine, no longer smoke. It was something real now. Something crawling out of the dark, and it was almost here. The bells swung in chaos. Each one cracked sent a shock through the air. Dust poured from the ceiling. The shadows screamed without voices, writhing and clawing across the floor. The figure moved faster now, no longer slow, no longer towering at a distance. It bent and folded, filling the room, arms slamming against the walls, chains dragging sparks across the stone. I kept pulling. Bell after bell shattered in my hands, glass cutting into my palms, blood dripping down the chains. Every break released another face, flickering away into nothing. But the more I broke, the more the figure changed. Its blur of a face sharpened, bones stretched through skin. A mouth cracked open where there had been none. Rows of teeth, wide and grinding, moving to the rhythm of the ringing dot. I looked up and saw only one bell left, bigger than the rest, hanging in the center. Its glow stronger, its face clearer. Tyler, his eyes stared down at me, wide, wet with fear. His mouth moved slower than the others. One word, please. The figure stepped closer. The floor split under its weight. The chains rattled, so loud I thought my eardrums would burst. I grabbed a chain to the last bell. It burned hot against my skin. The figure stretched its hand out, massive fingers curling toward my chest. My arms shook. My body wanted to let go, but I pulled anyway, harder than before. The bell cracked. The sound was like nothing else, sharp, endless. The walls shattered. The shadows burst into ash. The floor gave way beneath me. The figure screamed. Its mouth opened wider than the room itself. Chains tore out of its body, dragging bells with them. Every one exploded into shards of light, and then I fell. Down through black, past fragments of doors, past shadows with no shape, past pieces of houses stitched together. I hit the ground hard. When I opened my eyes, I was outside again. The street, Elm Street, quiet, empty. No house, no door, no bell, just silence. I stood on the sidewalk, with bloody hands, and glass still stuck in my skin. The night was calm, like nothing had ever happened. But when I turned to leave, I heard it again, faint, far away. Don ding don dong. Asterisk, asterisk. The sound was distant at first, soft, almost easy to ignore. Ding dong, it echoed. Through the street like a memory I couldn't shake. I turned slowly. The houses all looked normal again. Porches lit, windows closed, every yard quiet. But somewhere in the stillness, a single porch light flickered. I walked toward it without meaning to. My legs moved heavy, like something else was guiding them. The bell rang again, louder now, closer. Ding dong. The house at the end of the block looked wrong. The roof leaned too low, the windows too tall, the front door wider than it should have been. I swear it hadn't been there before. My chest tightened. The blood on my hands had dried, but the cuts still stung. The closer I stepped, the heavier the air grew, the kind of heavy that makes it hard to breathe. The porch light flickered once more and went out. The door creaked open. Inside, the hallway stretched long and dark. The faint glow of bells shimmered somewhere deep within. I backed away. I told myself to run, to get as far from Elm Street as I could. But then I heard it. Not the bells, not the shadows. Voices. John, Mason, Tyler, whispering my name. I froze. Their voices weren't trapped. They weren't fading. They were calling me from inside. The bell rang again, this time from the open doorway. Ding dong. My hand shook. My chest burned. I should have run. But my foot landed on the first step, then the second. The door opened wider, and the voice I had heard before returned. Low, deep, patient. Come, asterisk, asterisk. The air grew colder, the closer I got. Every breath felt like ice sliding down my throat. The open door seemed wider now. The frame stretched tall enough to swallow the whole street behind me. Their voices grew louder. John, Mason, Tyler, each whispering my name, each begging me not to leave them. I stopped at the doorway. The dark inside bent and shifted like smoke. Shapes moved just out of sight. Bells swayed faintly, their glow bleeding through the black dot. I told myself I could still run, that I could break free and never look back. But the sound of their voices cracked something inside me. I stepped in. The door closed behind me with a slow groan. No slam this time. No thunder. Just finality. The hallway stretched longer than before. The floorboards creaked under my weight. The bells above glowed faint. Some cracked, some whole. But each one held a shadow inside, faces pressed against the glass. Not just my friends. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Kids I didn't know. Their eyes wide. Their mouths moving silently. The figure waited at the far end, taller than ever. Its body bent to fit the ceiling. Its face was still blurred, but now I saw flashes of every face I'd ever known ripple across it. John, Mason, Tyler, even mine. It lifted a hand. The bells shook. The sound rose, layering into something almost like words. One ring, one det. The figure pointed toward the largest bell at the center of the hall. It was different from the rest, taller than me. Its glowed deep red dot inside. I saw my own reflection. The voices stopped. The street outside was gone. There was only this hall, only the figure, only the bells. I realized the game had never been about the door. It was about the bell. Knock once, ring once, leave a piece behind. And now it wanted the rest of me. The figure stretched its arm closer. Chains uncoiled from the shadows. The bell at the center shook, its glow bleeding across the floor. I stepped back, but the hall followed me. Each step in reverse still brought me closer to the bell. My reflection inside smiled. The hall bent tighter with every step. No matter how I moved, the bell loomed closer. Its red glow washed over the walls until everything else blurred into shadow. My reflection inside the glass smiled wider. Its lips moved, but the sound wasn't. My voice. It was deeper, colder. Welcome home. The chains slithered across the floor, curling around my ankles. Sharp hooks dragged against my skin. Every time I pulled away, the reflection pulled closer, pressing against the inside of the bell like it wanted to trade places. The figure raised both arms. The ceiling shook. Every smaller bell clanged in a deafening wave. Faces inside twisted, mouths wide, eyes shut. The voices of John, Mason, Tyler screamed in unison. Don't let it ring. I dropped to my knees, clawing at the floor, trying to break free from the chains. But the wood beneath my hands splintered, giving way to stone. Every tug only pulled me closer. The giant bell began to swing. Slow at first, then harder. Its glow pulsed like a heartbeat. Ding! The sound rattled through my bones. Dong! Dong! My reflection pressed harder against the glass. Its smile broke into a snarl. Its hand slammed against the inside. The crack spread across the bell like lightning. The figure's faceless blur leaned close. I felt its breath on me, though it had no mouth. One more ring, one more soul. I reached for the chain binding me. Blood slicked my fingers. Pain burned through my arms. But I pulled anyway. The links strained, bent, then snapped. The bell swung harder. The crack widened. Shards of light burst out. I grabbed a broken chain from the floor and hurled it at the bell. The glass shattered. The sound was like every bell at once exploding. A roar of chimes and screams that split the hall in two. Shadows burst apart. Faces inside the bells flared into light. The figure screamed, its blur collapsing into smoke. The hall shook violently, walls peeling away into endless dark. I covered my head as the final pieces of the bell rained down, then silence. When I looked up, the hall was gone. The figure was gone. Only the echo of bells remained, fading into nothing. I stood alone in the street again. The houses silent, the porches still. My hands raw and cut, but this time, no door, no glow, no voice. Just the night I thought it was over, until my phone buzzed in my pocket. A text, no number, no name, just 2 words. Ding dong, asterisk, asterisk. My phone screen glowed cold in the dark. The words pulsed once, like they were alive. Ding dong. My chest tightened. I wanted to drop the phone, smash it, throw it into the street. But my fingers wouldn't let go. Another message. You're late. I stumbled back. The houses around me stayed silent. No lights, no voices. Just the glow of the screen in my shaking hands. A new sound cut through the air. Not the bells, not the figure. Knocking. Soft, steady, 3 times. Coming from behind me, I spun around. No one was there. The street stretched empty. But the knocking didn't stop. It grew louder, sharper. My phone buzzed again, answered the door. I turned back and froze. There was a door now, freestanding in the middle of the road. No house, no frame, just a door standing on its own. Old wood, cracked paint. A faint red glow leaking out from the cracks. The knocking continued from the other side. 3 knocks, pause. 3 knocks, pause. My phone buzzed once more. They're waiting. The glow around. The door brightened, spilling across the asphalt. Shadows twisted underneath it, long and claw-like, dragging themselves closer to my feet. My friends' voices echoed faint from behind the wood. John, Mason, Tyler, help us. I reached for the handle without meaning to. My hands shook, but something pulled me closer. The moment my fingers brushed the cold metal, the phone lit up again. Final chance. The knocks stopped. Silence stretched long and heavy. Then slowly, the handle turned from the other side. Asterisk, asterisk. The handle twisted slow. The sound of metal grinding echoed down the empty street. My chest tightened so hard it hurt. The door creaked open a crack. The glow inside spilled through, like blood-red fog. I wanted to run, to scream, to wake up, but my legs locked in place. The gap widened. A hand slipped out first, pale, long-fingered, nails black and cracked. It gripped the edge of the door and pulled harder. The voices of John, Mason, Tyler, cried from inside. Louder now, desperate. Don't open it. Don't let it out. But the hand already had. The door pushed wide. What stepped through wasn't the figure from before. It was worse. Its body bent wrong, arms too long, legs twisted. Its head tilted sideways, as if it had been broken and set back wrong. The glow inside its chest pulsed with the same red light as the bells, and where its face should have been, there was only a hollow space, deep, endless. Inside it, I saw flashes of every door I'd ever knocked on, every porch, every house, each knock, each laugh, each run. They weren't games, they were invitations. The thing tilted its head toward me. The hollow where its face should have been flickered with light. Then I heard it knock, 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 not from the street, not from the door, from inside my head. My phone buzzed again. I looked down. One final message glared across the screen. You rang. Now answer. The creature stepped closer. Every knock inside my skull grew louder. Knock, 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 knock. I staggered back, covering my ears, but the sound was inside me, rattling my bones, shaking my teeth. The creature raised its arm, its hand stretched wide, not to strike, not to grab. To knock. It bent forward, its hand hovering inches from my chest, and then knock. Everything went black. I woke to silence. The street was gone, the houses, the sky, even the ground beneath me. I floated in a space that wasn't space at all. Black stretched in every direction, weightless, endless. But then I saw them, bells, thousands of them, suspended in the void like stars. Each one glowed faintly, pulsing with light. Each one held a face inside, eyes wide, mouths open, frozen mid-scream. I drifted closer to one, John, his face pressed against the glass, his hand raised, banging silently from the other side. I spun to the next, Mason, then Tyler, their faces twisted in terror, their eyes begging me not to join them. The bells began to sway. A low hum spread through the void. The sound grew louder, vibrating through my chest. Ding dong. The hollow-faced creature appeared again. But here, in this place, it was bigger, massive. Its body stretched across the bells like a shadow made of bone and smoke. It pointed at me. The bells around me shook. Their glow flared. Chains shot out from their sides, whipping through the air. Toward me. I dodged one, then another, but the chains multiplied, wrapping around my arms, my legs, my throat. The bells rang louder, faster. Each ring screamed through my skull. Ding, ding, ding. I struggled against the chains, but every pull only dragged me closer to one of the largest bells. The face inside twisted until it looked like mine, pale, lifeless, eyes black. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Somehow it still worked here. The screen lit up with one word, forever. The bell door swung open in front of me, glowing with red light. The chains pulled tighter. My reflection inside grinned wide. Asterisk. The chains tightened around my body, cutting deep into my skin. Every pull dragged me closer to the bell, the red glow pouring across my face until I could see nothing else. My reflection inside the glass stared back at me. Its smile stretched too wide, teeth sharp, eyes black pits. It raised its hand. I felt mine lift in unison, though I wasn't moving it. The bells rang harder. The sound ripped through the void, shaking my bones. Dung. The hollow-faced creature towered above it all, its arms spread wide, as if welcoming me home. The chains yanked. I slammed against the surface of the bell. The glass was cold, but alive. It pulsed like a heartbeat beneath my skin. My reflection pressed closer, its mouth opening. The sound that came out wasn't mine. It was the laughter of every night I had knocked and ran. The glass began to crack. Spiderweb lines spread under my hands. The reflection pushed harder, its body pressing against the inside of the bell. The chains pulled tighter, my chest crushed, my breath gone. The last thing I heard before the glass shattered was my phone buzzing. A final message blinked on the screen. You knock, you pay. The glass broke. Light exploded. My reflection's hand shot out and grabbed me by the throat, and then I was pulled inside. The world went silent. All I could see was glass. All I could feel was chains. And all I could hear was the sound of another knock from the outside. Someone else had started the game. The night was quiet. Suburban.com, the kind where porch lights glowed soft and sprinklers ticked across empty lawns. 3 kids crept down the sidewalk, laughing low, daring each other. Come on, one whispered. Last house, then we're done. They stopped at a tall wooden door. The paint cracked. The knocker old brass, shaped like a bell. One kid grinned, fist raised. Knock, knock, knock. They bolted, running across the yard, sneakers slapping the pavement. Laughter spilled into the night, but halfway down the block, the sound followed them. Ding-dong. They froze, looked back. The house was dark. The door still shut. Dung-dung-dung. The sound grew louder, closer. Not from the house, not from the street, from everywhere. Their phones buzzed at once. 3 screens lit up, the same words on each. You rang. They looked at each other, faces pale now. No more laughter. A shadow stretched long across the pavement, crawling toward them from nowhere. The bells began to glow, faint at first, then brighter, lining the street, one after another, until every house flickered red, and behind them, the door they had knocked on stood alone in the middle of the road. No house, no frame, just the door, its handle turned slow. Asterisk. The kids stared at the freestanding door. None of them moved. One whispered, "It's just a prank. It has to be." But his voice shook. The handle clicked. The door creaked open. Red light spilled across the street. Inside the bell, I saw it all. I pressed my hands against the glass. My reflection stared back, but behind it, I could see the kids. 3 faces I didn't know. Terrified. I screamed, but no sound left my throat. Chains bound me in silence. The hollow-faced figure moved between us. It stretched long arms toward the door, beckoning the kids closer. Their phones buzzed again. Step in. They shook their heads, tried to back away, but the shadows on the pavement moved faster than their feet. Long fingers of black curled around their sneakers, dragging them toward the door. Their laughter was gone now. Only the sound of sobs. One kid broke free and ran, but the bells lining the street rang in unison. Ding ding ding. The air bent. The boy tripped, and when he hit the ground, a bell appeared around him, snapping shut like glass jaws. His face pressed against it, eyes wide, pounding to get out. I saw him beside me now, inside the void. Another prisoner in the endless rows of glowing bells. The other 2 kids screamed, but the door was already pulling them in. The hollow-faced figure turned its head toward me, and though it had no mouth, I felt its words crawl inside my skull. I knock one soul. The chains tightened. My reflection smiled, and outside, the game continued. Asterisk. The 2 kids dug their heels into the asphalt, but the shadows pulled harder. Their fingers scraped the pavement, leaving streaks of skin and blood. The door stood wide open now. Inside was nothing but red light and the echo of knocking. Knock, 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 knock. Each sound rattled the street. Each sound pulled the kids closer. I slammed my fists against the glass of my bell. The chains cut deeper, but I didn't stop. I had to do something. Then I noticed it. Every time I hit the glass, the kids flinched. They could hear me, not my voice, but the sound. I struck harder. The bell rang faintly, a high, sharp tone. The hollow-faced figure twitched, its head jerking in my direction. The kids froze in place, the shadows loosening for a moment. My chest burned. I pulled against the chains until my wrists bled. Again, I struck the glass. Again, the bell rang, louder this time. The figure let out a low groan, body shaking like smoke in the wind. The kids' phones buzzed at once. Don't listen, but they did. One of the kids looked around, eyes wide, like he could sense me. His lips moved. Help us, I smashed. The glass again. Cracks spread across the surface. The sound echoed through the void. The figure shrieked, a horrible sound like metal tearing. Its hollow face split wider, and the bells around me shook violently. The chains dragged me down, but the cracks grew bigger. I knew it then. The bells weren't cages. They were locks, and I was breaking mine. Asterisk, asterisk, the cracks spread across the bell like lightning, glowing white against the black glass. Each strike made the void tremble. The hollow-faced figure let out a piercing shriek. It stretched its arms wide, smoke pouring from its body, and the bells all around me rattled violently. Ding, ding, ding. The sound was deafening, the faces inside. Each bell screamed in silence, their mouths open wide as if the noise was tearing them apart. Chains shot from the figure's body, lashing out toward me. They wrapped around the cracks, trying to hold the glass together. My wrists burned, my skin splitting under the chains already binding me. But I pulled harder, blood running down my arms. On the street outside, the kids were still frozen near the door. They watched the sky split red as the bells screamed above them. One kid clutched his ears, the other shouted words I couldn't hear. They were waiting on me. I slammed my fists into the glass again. Crack. The bell glowed brighter. The reflection inside stopped smiling. It pressed its hands against mine, trying to keep me in. Its eyes turned wild, frantic, desperate. The hollow-faced figure screeched louder. The shadows around the kids surged, dragging them closer to the door again. I didn't stop. I smashed the glass once more, every muscle in my body straining. Crack, crack, crack. The bell screamed like it was alive. Chains splintered. The reflection on the other side clawed at the surface, but the cracks split across its face, shredding it into shards of light. The figure lunged, its hollow head stretched wide, rushing toward me like a void meant to swallow everything, and just as it reached me, the bell shattered. Light poured out in all directions, burning the void red and white, and then everything went silent. The glass exploded outward, shards spinning into the void like sparks. The chains snapped one by one, falling away from my arms and legs. For the first time, I could breathe. I stumbled forward, out of the shattered bell, but there was no ground beneath me, only swirling light and smoke. The hollow-faced figure reeled back, its body unraveling like torn fabric. Holes ripped through its form, as if the light was burning it away. It let out a final, bone-shaking shriek. The bells around me flickered, faces pressed against the glass, some twisted in terror, others in pleading. They rattled violently, as if the shattering of mine had weakened them all. On the street outside, I saw the two kids. The red glow around them flickered. The door that had been pulling them in shook like it was unstable, its frame warping in the air. I realized I wasn't back yet. Not fully. I hovered between their world and the void. Then I felt it, a hand on my shoulder, cold, heavy. I turned. Another figure stood behind me, not hollow-faced, not like the creature. This one had a face, human, pale, its eyes black but wet, reflecting the light. It leaned close, whispered in a voice that was mine. Break one, free many. Break all, free none. Before I could respond, it shoved me forward. My body shot through the light, hurtling back toward the street. I slammed onto the pavement, gasping. The kids screamed when they saw me. Behind us, the door cracked down the middle, and the hollow-faced figure's arm clawed through the opening, refusing to let go. Asterisk, asterisk. The ground shook under us as the door split wider. Splinters rained onto the pavement. The hollow-faced figure forced its body through the crack, its head scraping against the frame, arms stretching longer and longer. The kids stumbled back. One grabbed my arm. "What is that? What is happening?" I didn't have an answer. My chest still burned from the chains. My hands bled from shattered glass. But I knew one thing. If the figure got through, no one would leave. The bells rang again, but different this time. Not in unison, scattered offbeat. Some cracked, some silent. Ding, dot dot, dot dong. Each broken rhythm made the figure twitch, like it couldn't hold itself together anymore. "We have to stop it," I said. The kids looked at me like I was insane, but when the figure's arm swept across the street, slamming into a parked car and crushing it flat, they understood. It's hollow, face tilted, the empty sockets staring straight into me. The door behind it glowed brighter, pulling at everything around us. Mailboxes shook loose, branches tore from trees. Even the air bent, tugging at our bodies. I braced against the pull, planting my feet. "Hit the bells," I shouted. The kids hesitated, but then one picked up a rock and hurled it at a glowing bell on a nearby porch. The glass cracked. The figure shrieked, dropping to one knee. I felt hope for the first time. "Keep going," I yelled. The other kid grabbed a brick, smashing it into another bell. Shards exploded into the air, the sound like broken chimes. The figure's body split further, smoke pouring out of its hollow face. It clawed at the ground, pulling itself closer, but it was unraveling. I ran to the nearest glowing bell and punched it with everything I had left. Pain shot up my arm, but the glass fractured. Light pouring out, the bells screamed, the figure wailed, and the door behind it began to collapse inward, folding into itself like paper on fire. The kids stared in shock. Is it over?" I wanted to believe it, but as the figure dissolved, its hollow head tilted once more, and in the fading glow, I heard its whisper. "You can't unring a bell." The door slammed shut, the street went silent. Asterisk, asterisk, the silence was heavy. The wind had stopped. The glowing red sky was gone. It was just a neighborhood street again. Cracked pavement, dark porches, a few broken windows. The kids stood beside me, chests heaving, faces pale. Their phones were dead. The bells that once lined the houses were shattered, shards glittering in the grass like frost. For the first time since it began, the street felt normal. "We did it," one of the kids whispered. His voice was raw, almost a question. I nodded, though my stomach churned. The door was gone. No sign of the figure, no sign of the void. But as we turned to leave, I noticed something. The bells, the shards still glowed faintly. Tiny pulses of light, like embers in ash dot every few seconds. One would flicker, and when it did, I thought I saw faces inside the fragments. Mouths open, eyes staring. I blinked, and the glow vanished. The kids didn't notice. They were already walking, whispering to each other about never coming back. I followed, but each step felt heavier, because in the back of my mind, I still heard it. Ding, faint, distant, but there, and worse. It wasn't just one, it was hundreds, and they weren't coming from the street. They were inside me. Asterisk, asterisk, my ears rang with every step, not like a headache. Sharper, cleaner, dot ding dot. The sound rippled through my chest, like my ribs were tuning forks. Ding. The kids didn't notice. They were ahead of me, whispering about their parents, about running home, and never speaking of this night again. But I slowed down. My vision swayed, edges blurring. In the reflection of a broken car window, I saw something behind my own eyes. A glow, tiny bells, dozens of them, hanging like ornaments in the black of my pupils. Their faint ringing matched the beat of my heart. Dung ding ding. I pressed my palms against my ears, but it only grew louder. The glass of the window cracked where my reflection stared back. My mouth moved, but I wasn't moving it. The reflection whispered, "You didn't free yourself. You only became the bell." My body shuddered. I dropped to my knees on the asphalt, choking on air that wasn't there. The kids turned back, panic in their voices. "What's wrong with him?" I wanted to warn them, tell them to run, but the words caught in my throat. Only the ringing came out. Ding dot, the sound echoed across the street. Every shard of glass left. On the ground lit up at once. The faint faces inside grinned, pressing their hands against the fragments. The kids froze, their eyes wide. They knew it wasn't over. It had only just begun. Asterisk, asterisk, the ringing grew unbearable. Every bone in my body vibrated, humming like glass under pressure. Dot ding dot, the kids rushed toward me. One grabbed my shoulder, shaking me, shouting my name. But his voice was muffled, drowned under the bells. Ding ding, my skin rippled. I saw it in their eyes, before I felt it myself. Dark lines spreading up my neck, hollow circles forming beneath my eyes. "He's changing," the other kid whispered, backing away. I tried to speak, to tell them to run, but when I opened my mouth, no words came out, only the sound of bells. Dong dot, the shards scattered across the ground trembled, then slid toward me, dragging themselves like magnets. They pressed against my skin, sinking in without leaving a wound. Each shard that entered me made the ringing louder, clearer. My reflection in the car window no longer looked like me. Its face stretched, hollow and endless. The same void I had fought against minutes ago. The kids screamed, pulling at my arms, trying to stop the change. But the more they touched me, the more the bells pulled toward them too. Their fingertips glowed faintly. They yanked back in terror, staring at the faint shimmer now crawling beneath their skin. Dot, I fell forward, palms slamming against the pavement. My body was heavy, sinking into shadows that weren't there, and from deep within my hollow chest, a voice spoke. Not mine, not the figures. One ring spreads, 2 rings bind, 3 rings never end. The kids backed away, trembling there, shoes scraping against broken glass. And as I lifted my head, my face half gone, half void, I saw the truth. I wasn't fighting the hollow-faced figure anymore. I was becoming it.